Hello aquaponics enthusiasts. Today we're going to see a few tricks to improve the general look of your aquaponics system. Hi aquaponics enthusiasts. So you may have started aquaponics and you may have an aquaponics system that is looking super ugly, that is in plastic, and that's what I see way too often. Actually, I am not different to you. When I started aquaponics, I was super focused on the technicity. I wanted to make sure that I had everything right in terms of water parameters, in terms of ratio between my different tanks, and I experimented with a lot of plastic tanks. That's what we all do, right? We first start an experiment on very cheap setup, cheap equipment, and then once we are sure that we are managing the thing properly, we sometimes invest more money to get something that looks a bit better and that is a bit more robust. If it's the case for you, you may have some troubles with your partners. Myself, I had some troubles when I started aquaponics. I had some aquaponics systems that were working really well. Then I started to build a bigger one. I used an IBC system and it was looking super ugly, but I couldn't see that because I was into my thing. I was really managing the fish and the plant. And I just wanted to go bigger because it worked and I was able to produce some food in my backyard. So I wanted to have a bigger system even. And then I started to have some conversation with my partner and she says, well, it's cool because we can really produce some food at home and we can eat some food that is sustainable, healthy and tasty, but, and there is a but, I don't think it looks super cool. And I was like, yeah, actually you are right. It doesn't look cool at all. It's plastic, it's crap. Like, the system is good, right? It's good to have an ecosystem at home, but it's not cool to have a lot of plastic. So I made a few twists on my first setup without spending too much money, but to really improve the design of the system. And that's what we're going to discuss today. I want to show you four big principles to have an aquaponics system that look okay. You know, that where you go from something that is looking ugly to something that look okay. Then there are other things to do if you want it to look amazing, if you want it to be a real plus in your backyard. But what I want to give you today is the principles, the general principles, and the difference between something that is looking really ugly and something that is looking okay or look good. So the first principle is to avoid visible pipes. So you know, when you start your aquaponics system, you may have pipes going from the water pump to the grow bed and then some pipes from the bell siphon to the fish tank. There are a lot of pipes that can be involved, right? Even if you work with an NFT, a nutrient film technique, you have pipes everywhere. So my first idea is to avoid to have those pipes visible, especially the one going from the water pump to the grow bed. You want to hide it as much as possible. So in the design that I do, I always put those pipes at the back. So when you look at the aquaponics system, you can't see it. And that's very important. That's, for me, super important actually in the design of the aquaponics system. Otherwise it looks a bit like a gas factory. You know, a gas factory, you got pipes everywhere, you don't even know where it's going, what is going where. It's plastic, PVC, ugly, not good. That's what you want to avoid. The second principle is to avoid artificial materials such as plastic, PVC or EPDM liners, all those things that you can really see are artificial. They don't look good because what we try to do is to recreate an ecosystem. So we're going to put plants, we're going to put fish. And if in between you have plastic, it really looks ugly. It doesn't match properly, unless it's really a specific type of plastic that is really designed properly. But most of the time we do it from plastics that we recycle, IBCs, or those type of things, you know, and unfortunately the result is not always great. So try to avoid this type of material, and if you use them, then try to not make them visible. The third principle is to avoid screws and bolts. So if you look at an aquaponics system, if you see screws everywhere that are not aligned, that are very messy, it's not going to be nice, it's not going to be good looking. What you want is to avoid those type of elements as much as possible, and if you have to put them, then try to align them and try to minimize the quantity that you're going to use. And the fourth principle is to use natural materials. So when we talk about natural materials, mostly we are talking about wood and stone. So stone is not really easy to integrate in the aquaponics system, at least it doesn't seem easy, there are some techniques to do it. But wood is really a material that you can use, and that is quite easy to find, easy to work with, and give amazing results. Like myself, I use a lot of wood for the aquaponics systems, the off-ground aquaponics systems that I offer, and I think they are among the most beautiful aquaponics systems in the world. And all you can see is wood. You don't see any plastic, you don't see any PVC, you only see wood, and it looks amazing. So before I say avoid artificial materials, now if you use artificial materials, there is a very good trick to do. Is, for example, if you have an IBC or a plastic tank, you want to cover it, and you can make a box of wood that is going all around, and actually the plastic is inside but you can't see it, you can just see a wood box, which is going to look quite nice. Now, if wood is too much work for you or too much investment, even in terms of money or equipment to cut the wood, I can totally understand that, especially if you have a small aquaponics system that you are just experimenting with. In this case, you can use Hessian. Hessian fabric is something that is super cheap, very much available around the planet, and very easy to apply. You can cover a whole IBC aquaponics system with Hessian fabric, and it's going to change the look of the system, completely redesign the look of the system. You're going to go from ugly to good looking, from ugly to something that is quite aesthetic and that you are happy to have in your backyard. I think it makes a huge difference. I have used this technique myself. Then there are other improvements that you can make, especially on the fish tank. You can cut a window in the fish tank, put a PVC glass, and you can see the fish. You can do those type of things. On the top you can build a little greenhouse that is going to enhance the efficiency of the system, but also the aesthetic of the system. So there are a lot of things you can do. I played and experimented with all those things. There are some pros and cons on all those things. For instance, if you do a window on the fish tank, most of the time you got the light that is going through and you have algae that are growing. So then you need to clean it more often. And when I design an aquaponics system, is always with the idea to have the lowest the lowest maintenance requirement. So I don't integrate those windows anymore, or at least I can sometimes in very specific projects, but not on all the systems that I design. So now, if you go for this option to cover the fish tank with Hessian or with wood box, there are some very beneficial things that are going to happen in your aquaponics system. The first thing is on the UV impact. You know that artificial materials such as plastic and PVC, they are very sensitive to UV light. And when the UV is going through the PVC or through the plastic, it basically modifies the structure of the plastic, and sometimes it can make it leach or release particles into the water. So it's really something that you should avoid, and that's why if you put a layer of wood around the plastic tank or a layer of Hessian, it's going to minimize the quantity of UV that are going to be able to reach the plastic, and therefore it's going to preserve the plastic and avoid leaching of the plastic into the water, which is very important from a food safety perspective. Having a double layer around your plastic tanks is going to also minimize the temperature exchange between the water and the air. And that's something that you are really going to benefit from, because there is a difference of the temperature between in the air between the day and the night, and therefore you're going to have fluctuation of water between day and night. That's what you want to avoid in aquaponics. It's not really good, not good for the plant, not good for the fish. Also in winter, if you put this layer around, it's going to create an insulation that is going to avoid the water temperature to drop too low, or in summer to increase too high. And if you have fish that are a bit sensitive to temperature, such as trout don't like high temperature in summer, or some native fish that don't like cold temperature in winter, this is going to help. Also, you can put some insulating material in between the plastic tank and the hessian or the wood, such as polystyrene. And if you wrap your tank with polystyrene, you're going to increase even more this insulation. So that's something that is really positive for your aquaponics system. Another positive point is that when you put this double wall, or basically this wood layer around your tank, wood or hessian, it's going to limit the quantity of light that is going to go through the tank, and therefore it's going to limit the quantity of algae. So algae, they are not such a problem in aquaponics, but you need to be aware that obviously the water can turn green. If it's microalgae that are swimming into the water can turn green, which is not super cool when you want to see the fish, because you can't really see through. Secondly, algae, yes, they produce oxygen, which is great for the fish during the day, but during the night they stop producing oxygen, but they consume oxygen, which means that you got a big fluctuation between the concentration of oxygen during the day, which is very high, and the concentration of oxygen during the night, which decreases until the morning where it reaches the lowest point. So every time you have oxygen, you have algae in an aquaponics tank, you need to be careful at the oxygen level, especially at the very morning before the sun rays. That's where the oxygen concentration is the lowest. If you wrap your tank with some insulated materials, then you limit the quantity of light and you limit the quantity of algae that are going to be able to grow in your tank. Therefore, you don't have this issue. So I think that's a lot of interesting tips that you can directly apply to your own aquaponics system. If you haven't started your aquaponics system yet, you will be able to apply this technique in your future projects. But before starting your aquaponics system, I really recommend you to get the free aquaponics training from the description of the video just below, or from the like information on the corner of the video. This is where I give you all the critical information, the ratio to respect between the fish and the bacteria, how to build your aquaponics system, the ratio to have between the grow bed and the fish tank. A lot of limits to respect when you manage your aquaponics system are going to be available in this free training that is available again in the description of the video, or even in the website Aquaponics Revolution. On the homepage you're going to find a link to this free training. If you are new to the channel, I recommend you to subscribe, because I release videos quite frequently, and if you subscribe you are not going to miss them. And if you enjoy this video, if you find it helpful, please give it a like. If you have a question, or if you want to share an experience, please leave your comment in the comment section just below. And for myself, I see you in the next video. Bye bye.